Now, for me, for the most part, the game started getting interesting in the fourth quarter. The Browns in the third quarter were down 31-24. And I like to think in the third quarter, the play by Myles Garrett in which he sacked Lamar Jackson was going to give the Browns all the momentum. Because up until that point, the Browns was gaining momentum. But just when, it felt like the Browns was going to get the ball back, march downfield again, and get the game time touchdown. As the ball's being punted away, what's his name? Brochet, he fumbles the punt, right, and the Ravens get the ball on the 10-yard line. But still, even up to that point, it was interesting because it took the Ravens 10 plays to get in the end zone from the 4-yard line. Because the Browns had stopped them not once but twice, but two defensive penalties, nullified and gave the Ravens two more chances, or should I say three more chances. And then they got it, on the third try, they ended up, scoring the touchdown that put them up 31-17. So at that point, and I guess I can use the Rocky analogy. It's like, even though Rocky is a fictional character, him and Apollo Creed, it's still like, Apollo is like just beating Rocky unmercifully for the most part in the bout, right? And then up until the last bout, Rocky starts making his comeback, but it's because of Rocky's resilience in the other rounds is the reason why he's able to mount that type of comeback. Because even though Apollo Creed kept beating on Rocky unmercifully and just literally just knocking him out after, it's like knockout after knockout after knockout, Rocky refused to stay down. So in so many ways you can say this is how the Browns played yesterday. They just played with resilience, because it just seems like, again, just when the Browns was gaining momentum, they was going to get all the momentum when they was about to receive the ball back. Then Roche fumbles the ball, and now the Ravens get it on their own 10-yard line, and then they eventually punch the ball in for 7 points, which put them up 31-17. It just seems like that was the knockout blow, right, for the Browns. It seemed like, oh, here we go, same old Browns. This is what they do. Just when they are about to either win the game or tie it up, they fumble the ball, right? Typical old Browns. Okay. But no, in this game, the Browns marched downfield, and they were able to get another score. So now the score is 31-24. So due to a couple more defensive stops by the defense, one in particular, Myles Garrett getting that was a sack. I don't know if he got another sack in the fourth quarter or not, but the Browns were able to stop him on defense. They were able to stop the Ravens twice on D and give the ball back to the Browns. And this would set the stage in the last, few seconds of the fourth quarter. And in my opinion, this is why Deshaun Watson was able to play at an elite level. Because, let's just say this is where he displayed that type of elite skill set that he, played at the quarterback position 3 years ago when he was compared to Patrick Mahomes. He displayed some of that. Or you can even say he played elite in the fourth quarter. Because this is what he was brought in to do. This is why the draft picks were given up, and this is why he was signed to a $230 million guaranteed contract. For games like this, where you have to be better than the other elite quarterback, which is Lamar Jackson. And even though, in my opinion, Lamar and Deshaun Watson ended up canceling each other out, still, Deshaun Watson played slightly better than Lamar Jackson because of how he executed the last drive in the fourth quarter to put, the Browns in position for Dustin Hopkins to kick the game-winning field goal. And he had a key run where he ran for 16 yards. He also had a key pass where they were backed up because I think when the drive started, he was sacked and he fumbled the ball. And this is another big play in the game, in my opinion. Why Teller recovers the fumble. Now imagine if he did recover it. Ravens get the ball back, game over. It's game time. But why Teller recovered the ball, so now the Browns was able to, resume business as usual. And again, Deshaun had a nice key strike. I want to say it was a 18-yard strike to Amari Cooper. And then he was able to run for another 16 yards. And then David Njoku, this is another big play in the game, in my opinion. He caught a pass, and he was able to literally play bully ball with the defenders and get extra yards to put Dustin Hopkins in an even better position to kick the game-winning field goal. But, keep in mind, when they tied, when we thought they were going to tie the game up, of course, Dustin Hopkins missed it, and the Browns was down 31-30. Okay. But, again, he made amends when he kicked the game-winning field goal, Dustin Hopkins. So, again, Browns as a team played great yesterday. This was a huge win for them. But, again, Deshaun Watson displayed, in my opinion, that elite quarterback play he displayed 3 years ago, in my opinion. And is this something we're going to see going forward? Perhaps. But, again, it was a good sign to see Deshaun Watson. And, again, it appears to me he's getting his timing back and he's getting, in a rhythm to where perhaps he can play at elite level. But, again, then, I like to think now the Browns are going to get, the respect regarding them being considered one of the teams that can compete for next year's Super Bowl 2024. But I like to think Kevin Stefanski going to get some respect now. But because for some odd reason, I don't know why people don't like him as a head coach. In my opinion, he's a leader of men. He controls the locker. He's got control of the locker room. He's relatable. The players like him. They respect him. GM, the owner, special teams coach, Jim Schwartz, defensive coach. They respect him. Of course, Buddy Patrone, special teams coach. I think everybody in the organization respect Kevin Stefanski. So, and then one of the reasons why a head coach is in jeopardy of losing his job, in my opinion, is when he loses the locker room. As you can see, before this game, the Browns are 5-3. And then, as you watched the game yesterday, what does that tell you? It tells you that these players play for Kevin Stefanski. So why would you fire a head coach when the players are playing for this guy? They're giving it all. They're laying it all out there on the field. They're giving 110% for this guy. So why would you want to fire Kevin Stefanski? There was even some reports Andrew Berry should get fired too. Like, who would go first if they were to be fired, Andrew Berry or Kevin Stefanski? Like, I think that's just nonsense, just to talk like that. Why you want to fire these guys when actually Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski is actually two of the most stable head coaches and GMs we had since the Browns went back in 1999. I ain't going to get into all that, but I like to think that's a fact, that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry has been the most stable unit for the Browns. And Jimmy Haslam, the owner, of course, but still, Andrew Berry, I think, has done a great job selecting players that he feel can help the Browns compete for a Super Bowl, right? Super Bowls. And again, Kevin Stefanski's X's and O game has been solid, in my opinion, this season. So, and he's defeated at least 4 good to elite head coaches, in my opinion. Zach Taylor is 1. Mike Vrabel is 2. Kyle Shanahan is 3. And then now John Harbaugh is 4. Them guys right there is good to elite head coaches that Kevin Stefanski has defeated this year. So, again, why would you want to fire a guy that has put the Browns in position to win games and the players are playing for him? if that makes sense. And everybody's on board with Kevin Stefanski. So I think it's just nonsense. I like to think perhaps, all this talk would now, dissipate, and they'll start looking at Kevin Stefanski as at least one of the good head coaches in the game. Not quite elite right now. I think he should give up the play calling. He should, they should try to acquire an offensive coordinator next year. I also think they need to get a deep threat receiver next year too. But we'll see what happens. I'm not going to get into all that right now either. But this was a huge win for the Browns. Congratulations. I'm glad they won for Kevin Stefanski. I'm glad they won for the players. They deserved it. They've been playing lights out football. They've been resilient all season. They have been laying it out there, playing with heart. They have been fighting. They have, pretty much ignored the outside noises regarding people saying, oh, you can't beat this team, or you're not good enough, or the head coach is not good enough, or Deshaun Watson, oh, he might be a bust. This might be the worst signing in NFL history. They have been able to tune out all that type of noise and continue to play with resiliency. They've been continuing to fight, play with heart, play with a certain amount of intellect, and just going out there and just laying it all out on the field. And, it's a great thing for the Browns fans, too, because you're actually finally getting to see a good team that we haven't seen since the Bernie Kosar, Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, Martin Schottenheimer, God rest his soul, Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner, Bob Golick, Clay Matthews, Brian Brennan. I mean, these are some of the great players that played for the Browns organization. And I'm going to come on, Paul Brown, Jim Brown. I mean, come on. We already know that regime was great for the Browns, period. Paul Brown, Jim Brown, the rest of the crew, they were just great. Otto Graham, just great. But I'm just talking about the era I watched growing up, which was, Marty Schottenheimer, Bernie Kosar, Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, Hanford Dixon, Felix Wright, Frank Minifield. I mean, come on, I already named the other key players on that team that, were one game away from winning this, going to the Super Bowl and perhaps winning it. But we know how that story ended, John Elway. But I think, ever since those eras, those regimes, I like to think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski is the most stable one since those eras, since those regimes, if that makes sense. But that's all I have to report. Or I'm sorry, I do want to give out the stats. And for the game, Deshaun Watson was 20 and 34 for 213 yards, average of 6.3, a touchdown and interception. His sack, I think he had 4 sacks for 18 yards and loss. His rating is 74.8 for that game. Jerome Ford, he's just been admirable as far as in the